Hello guys, welcome back. In this video we'll be learning about the new QT component, which is called the rectangular shadow component, which is only available in Qt 6.9, right? So this component is not available in previous versions of Qt. It was recently added for this shadow effect. If you want to have a similar effect for older Qt versions, there is something called drop shadow, this thing, but this is deprecated in Qt 6, so you won't find it. You have to import using the Qt 5 compat module. So instead of that, if you are using Qt 6, I recommend using a rectangular shadow and Qt 6.9. So let's get started. Very simple code, right? So first of all, we need a rectangle. I say width 250, height 250, and color. Let's choose a color from here. Let's choose this color. Give a hash. Angles or center independent. And this should be above, right? Radius of, let's say 10, 8, right? Let's see. Now as you can see, there is no shadow for this, right? So for that we need a rectangular shadow, and that is in QtQuick.fx. So import QtQuick.fx. Here this is just a shadow. This is not a rectangle. This is just a shadow. So I'll say anchors.fill, and let's give it this an ID. So I'll say ID of myrect. So I'll say anchors.fill myrect. So this will fill this rectangle. Now there is two things. One is called radius and one is called spread. So the radius is okay. Let's see the properties one by one. Okay. Yep. So the radius is very simply the rectangular's radius. So this is 8. So I'll also say 8 here, or I can simply say myrect dot radius. So both the properties are binded. Very simply radius thing, right? Width and height no need because you already said anchors.fill parent, right? So after that there is something called blur and something called spread. Blur and spread. So and also color. We also want to give the color to the shadow. So I'll say color. Q3 dot darker, and I'll choose this color. So I'll say myrect dot color and 1.1. So whatever this color is, it will be 10% more darker. If it's 1.2, it will be 20% more darker. So this means 20% more dark than this color, right? So let's go with 1.2 and let's give it a blur of, let's say 10 and a spread of, let's say 4. Now what is blur, what is spread? I'll show you. First let's run the application and see if it's working or not. And as you can see, there is a shadow. If you are not able to see, I'll increase the blur to 15. And as you can see, there is a shadowing gluey effect, right? So this is how to use rectangular shadow. I'll tell you what blur and spread is, right? So let me open my dashboard. Okay. So let's say, let me choose a pen. Let's say this is the rectangle, right? Now let's say the color of this is orange, and let's say the color of our shadow is blue, right? So something like this, like the shadow color is blue. Now let's say we want the shadow to be very thick. So this thing is called the spread, right? And after this, small particles, that is called blur. So small gray particles, right? That is called blur. So if you said blur to be very high, so this small particle will be very large. So in this image, let's say this image, right? Let's increase the blur to, let's say very large, let's say 70. you'll be able to see the small gray particles are very large. If you see, the small gray particles are very large, and if you set the blur to 4 but the spread to very large number, you will see that the actual green color of the shadow, that is very large. So spread means the actual shadow color, right, this color, and blur means the small gray particles from the spread. So this small particles, so as I showed, so spread is basically small, blur you can increase. That's a good way of increasing the effect. Yep. There is also a property called anti-aliasing. If you set it to true, it will try to smoothen the effect, right? So if you set anti-aliasing to true, it will try to smoothen. So let's say the particles are like this, right? Let's say this is the rectangle, this is the shadow. Particles are like this. It will try to join them, so it's become very smooth, right? So it will try to smooth the particles. Yep, nothing much effect here. Now one thing to notice is if you set the rendering here, the graphics API to software. In my case, I'm not able to see the drop shadow because my software is not able to render the shadow. So if you see, there is no shadow here. But if I change the rendering option to, let's say, direct 3D or 12, let's say, now I'm able to see because the rendering is changed. So be careful with the rendering thing, right? For this rectangular shadow thing. I think that's it. In this video, we'll be using a project